Right out of the gate in chapter 7, verse 1 and verse 5, Paul says he is speaking to those who knew the law when we were in the flesh, meaning before we got born again. Then he uses the law of marriage in the law as a parable for the law itself, that the wife could not divorce her husband no matter how bad he is, but if he died, she was loosed from the law of marriage and free to marry another. So he is saying that you in general, but specifically the Jew, that you are married to the old man, the sin nature. That's the part the law of Moses had a hold of. You are bound to this sin nature, married to it under the law, and you can't get away from it unless it dies. Well, how can a sin nature die? It died in the death of Christ when he spiritually died, and when by faith you baptized your spiritual death into his spiritual death, thereby destroying that old man of sin, that sin nature you were married to. It freed you from the law of marriage to that sin nature, meaning it freed you from the law of Moses itself. You're dead to it. You're no longer under it, but have risen with Christ, married to another, to the new man, and now you can produce fruit unto God, meaning now you can live above sin righteously. You have the 10 commandments, the morality of the law written in your heart as a born-again person, so you are no longer under an external law you could not keep, O Jewish man. But you have a new nature and a conscience that freed you from having to sin, so there is no more need of law. So Paul spends the rest of the chapter describing how the law had a hold of a spiritually dead person who was commanded to keep it, bound to keep it, but could not keep it because he was spiritually dead. And thus he was condemned. This is not talking about the Christian. Romans 8 goes on to describe the Christian life, that newness of spirit where we can live above sin. See related video for how the first 6 verses of Romans 7 prove that the chapter is not talking about a Christian, but a spiritually dead Jew living under the law of Moses. Verse 7 to 25 go on to describe the situation this Jew was under the law. What shall we say then? Talking about life under the law. Is the law sin? God forbid, because I didn't even know what sin was unless the law told me. I did not know lust was a sin until the 10th commandment told me to stop. Meaning, when something is your nature, you have no idea it is wrong until somebody walks up to you and says, stop doing that, it is wrong. So the Jew goes, okay, I will stop. But sin used that commandment because when he tried to stop, he found out he could not because he was spiritually dead. So all he did was lust all the more. So when he says without the law sin was dead, he does not mean that he was not sinning or that sin did not exist. He means that when there is no law against it, you don't know it is wrong. It is just your nature, which is why he says he was alive without the law once. Not that he was spiritually alive, but rather that all is fine when you don't know what you are doing is wrong. You would just walk down the street whistling Dixie. But when the commandment came, meaning God gave the law of Moses, then I died. Meaning, now that I know it is wrong and try to stop, I find out I can't stop because I am spiritually dead. And now I know it. Before the law, I was just doing what my nature was, but now I find out that I have a death nature and stand condemned by the sin and condemned to always sin. Therefore, I find that the law of Moses was about life in and of itself, but to me it was of death, because I could not keep it, and it proved the spiritual death I was born into. Sin already in me, as I am born of Adam, used the commandment to deceive me and kill me. So Paul is saying that a Jew under the law is spiritually dead and tries to keep it but finds out he can't. Before the law, it would be no big deal in his mind because he didn't know it was wrong to do these things. When he found out it was wrong, he tried to stop and found out he could not. So the law became death to him, highlighting his spiritually dead nature he was married to and producing fruit by. This isn't talking about the Christian. You are delivered from the law and are dead to it because you are delivered from the nature of sin when it was destroyed in the death of Christ and can now live above it, walking righteously by conscience because the law is written in your heart. So the spiritually dead Jew under the law could not stop sinning. You can if you are born again. If you are sinning, don't blame the law. That was given to spiritually dead Jews, not Christians. Looking from the outside in, you would be like, man, is the law bad since it makes me sin? God forbid, he says. The law is good and holy and just, but it manifested the sin you had the nature of that you could not stop. The law highlights your inability to stop because you are spiritually dead, O Jewish man, and thus it makes sin exceeding sinful as you try to stop by law and end up sinning all the more. If you take this to mean that it is talking about a Christian who can't stop sinning, then all you are doing is putting yourself more under law because you are taking a New Testament truth of being free from having to sin, yet interpreting it as law itself. You actually put yourself under law because you say you cannot stop sinning. It is shockingly ironic if you take this to mean it is a Christian. In denying law, but still saying you can't stop, you have admitted it is law and put yourself under it and can't stop sinning. This is a denial of the work of Christ, and you need to get out of that teaching before it leads you to hell. So Paul goes on, talking about the spiritually dead Jew under the law who could not stop because he is spiritually dead. The law is proving he has a sin nature. How else would you know something is wrong when it is your nature to do it? A mule is just a mule. It doesn't know anything else. So he says the law is good, but I am sold under sin. Adam sold me to the sin nature through his sin that I was born with the nature of. The good I want to do as I read the law, I don't end up doing, but the bad I don't want to do, I do. If then I end up doing what I don't want to do, I am consenting that the law is good. So when he says it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwells in me, he isn't talking about a Christian, but a spiritually dead Jewish person who is given the law of Moses, specifically that 10th commandment, thou shalt not lust. He not only tries to stop and can't, but doesn't even know he has done it until after he has done it, and thus he finds out he has the law of sin as a nature, and it is no more him as an individual who has done it, but the nature within him, meaning he wants to stop and tries to stop, but being sold to sin by Adam, he can't stop. So he finds a law within himself that when he would do good, evil is present with him. That the good he wants to do, he doesn't do, but the evil he doesn't want to do, he does. He finds out there is no good thing in him, and he delights in the law of Moses in the inward man. Not inward man as in born-again human spirit. Remember, it is a spiritually dead Jewish man who is under the law of Moses, not a born-again person. So the next verse explains what he means by inward man. He says in his mind, the spiritually dead person has made a choice as an individual to obey God and does so with his mind, his want to. But he finds the law of sin and death, that sin nature in his members, that he keeps him from obeying it. He cries, who shall save me from this body of death? So the last verse, he thanks God through Jesus, who is going to deliver him from not being able to obey God and live above sin. And Paul explains this freedom in the next chapter. Then he brings a conclusion to a spiritually dead Jew under the law. With my mind I serve the law of God, but with the flesh, meaning the sin nature in his members, he serves the law of sin and cannot stop.